Hello and welcome to another Mobalytics video. I'm your host Virkayu and I am going to be explaining why Graves has suddenly become one of the best junglers in the game again. Yes, it's a far cry from the Season 6 Ruffle Stomp days where he would farm for about 18 years, stack the Dark Harvest, pop out with 3000 damage per auto, and everyone cried. However, despite a few years wallowing in mediocrity, he is once again top tier. And I showed him as one of the best junglers in the game in my jungle tier list I released last week. And yes, that's a whole video about just the best junglers in the game. It all began on that fateful day when Season 10 began. Camp spawn is reduced down to 2 minutes, everyone thought, hey, this is Season 6 days, we're going to AFK farm with Graves. Secure dragons, get souls, get heralds. I mean, to be honest, most junglers thought they were going to do that. In the end, it didn't appear to be too strong. The jungle nor Graves. So over the months of Season 10, Riot buffed Rift Herald, Riot buffed experience points, they shifted the dragon's power, and then they buffed experience again, and then they shifted experience again. So farming junglers now have much more success than they did even 2 months ago. But that's not the only part of the story. To aid him in his quest for hunting other junglers like common cattle, they buffed the cooldown on his E at the beginning of Season 10. And despite him being played in Master Tier Plus, Tarzan was playing him, a lot of other high elo junglers, they were playing this champion. He was very good in high elo, he had strong control of games, he could farm very quickly, and was dominating other junglers in 1v1 matchups. We were even seeing a bit of Graves mid lane. But then patch 10.5 comes along, they reduce the mana cost on that Q to flat 60, they give him a cooldown buff, they buff his magic resistance, and they buff his magic resistance growth. Now, despite the fact that the champion wasn't really being seen below Diamond, he was still strong overall, but these changes in 10.5, they really took him over the edge. Mid lane Graves became even more powerful, although his power in the jungle was so overwhelming, he's basically permanently there now. Ultimately, he just farms so quickly, he skirmishes very well, his smokescreen is great for ganks even though he doesn't have a gank, his tankiness from that E-stacking armor, the buff to the magic resist adding in this area as well, strong DPS, strong sustained damage, his ability to have an auto attack reset with his E, his ultimate has a nice surprise chunk to it, and all of a sudden you're looking at one of the best junglers in the game, especially in high elo, usually a great indication of a jungler's ability. So essentially, those direct buffs, the buffs to the jungle experience that really suits his playstyle now, strong heralds, great dragons, and really good camp sequencing will net you 2 or 3 level leads over any junglers with great ease. And then you throw in a 20% solo experience buff, which, only helps an invading jungler. Yes, he can also be a farming jungler. Yes, he can also be a ganking jungler. Yes, he's basically all kinds of jungler. Well, that's just basically the cherry on top, well, the cigar on top. So it wasn't really a slow approach, but it wasn't really a super fast approach either. He was just always there, and then with these sequential changes in a few patches, oh by the way, Karthus is going to be getting nerfed next patch, everyone celebrate! But that also means Graves will be one of the few remaining best junglers for this current meta. So you're asking me, well Virkayu, what exactly are the cons then? You've just been praising this champion for 3 minutes. Well, that's simply because Graves can fit into literally any team comp. Whatever you need, he can do it. His clear is healthy, he can do any sort of clear that he wants to do. Insane 1v9 carry potential, strong in solo queue, high damage, and this is important, one of the few ranged junglers that are actually, viable. Kindred's great in, professional play and with the best players in the world at the champion, but their gimmicky mark system and the way they sort of have to scale really heavily, why play Kindred when you can play Graves? His biggest issue can be in an organized setting when there's a really great PL comp and you really are required to have CC because your team has none. He doesn't really bring anything there. The smokescreen has great utility, but obviously crowd control. So now that we've looked at how Graves has risen from the dead, how his strength and weaknesses work within the game, what is our actual pathing and how do we play this champion? If you're looking for an applied game example, I have just released one on my channel. You can go to the link description below. That'll show you a full game and how exactly to execute upon Graves' desires. But in terms of generalities, what is our pathing in our early game focus? Now, there are 3 schools of thought. 1, full clear, maintain staccato control, look to counter jungle. This is called the starvation AFK farming methodology, otherwise known as make the enemy jungler feel like a walnut. The other version is of course do a 3 camp clear, blue side, red side, look to get a gank on the side lane, look to have some kind of impact early, read and react to the map. Typical jungle things, maybe a blue gromp and a red and you do a level 3 gank, maybe you do the red buff and then you hop over the dragon pit wall and you look for a gank on the side lane, or you look to simply invade 1v1. And that's the 3rd school of thought, I will invade you and destroy you. This relies on jungle tracking, knowing that you win the 1v1 matchup and suffocating them by matching their cadence. You meet them where they're gonna be, you push them off of it, you continuously get in their face and remove them from the game. This gives your laners time to sort of, lose by themselves without complaining about jungle difference. And it also gives you time to hardcore stack your experience, which is what you want to do as Graves. You're still looking to camp sequence, counter jungle, and farm with almost a demonic possession. But remember, you're still looking to gank, right? You still want lane impact, lane ganks, side ganks, flanking ganks, tower diving ganks. Graves can do anything because of that E. The main thing is, Graves, is to look at which lanes have either obscene damage like a Katarina or have good CC. Because you don't have any CC, you just have that slow, you need that utility when you do eventually rotate. Red buff is also huge, so when you have that red buff in the early game, try and look for a little bit of action, even if it's a drive-by. The burn, the slow, and the auto attacks, all of these are great utility for Graves' skirmishing. Remember, as with all junglers, when you have no CC in your kit, but you have a ranged component or something that's, quite useful to burst them down, your angle of approach is the most important. That means coming from behind so you can begin by auto-attacking and they have to move by you all while you're auto-attacking. You can use that slow either before or after their movement speed, dash, or flash, and then if you have your ultimate up, use it as a great finisher. But because you had a good angle of approach, they would have used that flash or dash before your ultimate, and that means it's a guaranteed hit. In terms of that early to mid-game phase, you're looking to get those dragons and heralds. It's okay to give up one herald. It's okay to give up an early dragon or two, especially for stronger early game junglers. Think about your RexEz and your Nidleys in terms of how they want to gank a lot, get objectives, and close the game out. You don't have that timer. You're okay biding your time, counter jungling, stacking experience. Just make sure that by the time that mid-game rolls around, you are fed enough, you have vision control enough, that you can begin to take the dragons, maybe get the second herald. If you can get the first dragon, first herald, obviously go for it. But at this point, you are not looking to push side lanes. You are looking to take everything on the map. You will farm very, very quickly. You need to understand the flow of the game, where you need to be, when to give up camps, and when simply just to push lanes, use your split pushing power, use your rotational power, and ultimately that chase down and skirmish potential to get a game-winning advantage. And that's the thing, you are quite selfish with Graves, okay? Do not think, oh, that side lane, that's for my Malphite. I gotta let him have that CS. No, he's a rock. You're a man with a giant gun. Shove the wave yourself. Q spam, hit the towers as soon as they rotate. Back on out. Into the jungle, steal their stuff. The jungler thinks it's his blue buff. No, it's your blue buff. Bye-bye, I take that. Mid lane is shoving, great. Fall back into your jungle, clear your camps, reset, and now go do the same thing on the top side. Graves is literally the epitome of jungle pressure that never stops. And now I hear you asking, yes, but what runes and builds do we use to actually inflict our will upon the game? Now, until recently, about a month ago, there was a pretty standard rune page with Fleet Footwork. Still works as you see on your screen now. Fleet, Triumph, Alacrity. The secondary page is kind of Nimbus Cloak into Water Walking at the moment, but there were Resolve secondaries that people had. There were Domination secondaries that people were trying. But the combination was usually with Fleet Footwork, Overheal, and Bloodline. Bloodline did get nerfed, and so if you see a Fleet Footwork page, it's most likely going to be something like this. Gives you healing in the jungle, gives you movement speed stacking. You still see some people in Korea running it. Nice sustain. When you have Death's Dance and a healing team composition, you become unkillable. But I said they ran this in Korea, and they do. However, Korea also started a different thing, and it's called the Phase Rush Graves. Yes, it's Phase Rush. What can we do with Fleet Footwork? Heal, be sticky. Well, you can do the stickiness significantly better with Phase Rush. It also aids by giving you slow resistance, 75% to be exact. Slap yourself with a Nimbus Cloak, Transcendence, Water Walking, Alacrity, maybe Triumph or Q depending on which one you want to go, and all of a sudden you're a 1v9 powerhouse. This is the rune page that everyone's running. This is the sticky thing that frustrates all other junglers. You think, hey, there's a Graves. Oh, why is he on top of me? Hey, Graves, I'll chase you down. Okay, bye-bye. It just gives him tons of movement speed, which makes him able to permanently auto people down and chase you any way you want to go. Think of it like a big little legend, except you die. Now, in terms of itemization, I wish I could give you a boilerplate copy-paste thing for you to go for, but Graves' itemization is so diverse, it's actually a headache. The most basic component is everyone buys Warrior with Red Smite. Most junglers will take a Merc Treads or Tabby Boot just for the added tankiness. You can have Berserker's Greave if you're turbo smurfing, but then things start to become different. I looked at a lot of high elo junglers to see what they like to build, and all of them had these different preferences. It's quite common to see a Black Cleaver second into a lethality item. That means Black Cleaver into Maw if you need it. Black Cleaver into Umbral Glaive. Maybe they're quite ahead and they go from Youmuus into Black Cleaver. This seems to be a typical trend, however there are some who like Black Cleaver and Phantom Dancer. Now depending on your preference there, you can of course continue to go more lethality items such as Edge of Night. You can definitely add in that GA. It is situational, but it's quite common to see a GA last. You might even add a Last Whisper item if there are huge tanks against your team comp, but the one item that people are building quite a lot of is the Death's Dance. Its buffs now gives you resistances, and again, as you can see, the tanky marksman never die fantasy is very much what you're trying to get at. That's why the PD can be so useful. There are some junglers who will like to go Warrior into a crit build, but I feel like having the Warrior into Merc Treads or Tabbies, Black Cleaver, lethality item, Death's Dance, maybe a GA, a Last Whisper item if you have the slot, that's your best core template. If you wish to have a squishier build, then obviously go Warriors, Merc Treads, Tabbies into a Youmuus Ghostblade, Death's Dance. You have maybe an Edge of Night, a GA, and maybe a Last Whisper item. That's a more squishier build, more DPS focused build. You won't have as much survivability, but you will actually surprise people with your damage. Our best advice is always to try it out and see what suits your style the best. Ultimately, when a champion has this kind of versatility, that's what makes it part of the fun. Now, a whole different section is of course tips, tricks, and combos. Let us know if you would like a video specifically on that, but we can leave you with the most core Graves mechanics that you all must know. Your auto passive that knocks the monsters back when you're farming them. This removes the resistances from Scuttle, which means it's easier to take. It also means that you should always be kiting your jungle camps, and always kite towards your next camp that you want to clear, because it's very important for Graves jungle that you stack your E passive. You do this by consistently doing damage, and that refreshes the amount of stacks he has on his E. And in case you didn't know, that's his armor. That's the bonus armor you get on the ability that makes him so tanky. So maintaining this while you farm in the jungle is very important because it keeps you healthier, especially if you are taking phase rush and not fleet footwork. And naturally, that E also resets your auto attack. So you auto, now you have to reload. Make sure you auto a jungle camp twice and then E immediately after your second auto attack. This resets your passive and gives you an extra auto. This lets you dish out 3 extra autos instead of 2 within a short time span. This is very important if you are chasing down enemy junglers and trying to fight them and get off as much damage as possible while using your Q and your W at the same time. It's good to smite the Grump because it's ranged and hard to kite, and it's also good to smite the big Raptor because the baby ones will block all your auto attacks. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that capsule on Graves, how he became one of the best meta junglers, how you can at least get started with him and using him in your games. Make sure to refine that process, look at the best Graves play in the world to see what they build and how they play it. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to Mobalytics for all the excellent videos coming very soon. Thank you very much for watching. I have been your host Virkayu, and as always, I will see you all in the next video.